or whatever Bugs Bunny used to say. We got a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. The first thing we're going to talk about is a threat. The Washington Post, of all places, is threatening you. They did an opinion piece, and it's starting to get some traction over the last couple of days. It was a couple of days ago, but they're basically telling you that they did these war games scenario, and guess what? Surprise, surprise, if Joe Biden doesn't win in a landslide, then we're going to have HE double. I'll expand on that in a minute. And then our next story is about Zuckerberg. We trust Mark Zuckerberg. He's come out with some statements about what they're going to do in the closing days of the election with Facebook and everything else, and we'll update you on that. And then a good buddy of the show, no, I kid you, but I wish he was. I'm a big fan of Monty Python. I miss those guys greatly. We're going to talk about, hopefully we have time for John Cleese, and he's controversial now because he's come out and said that there's no room for humor in a woke joke. There is no such thing as a woke joke. Essentially, you have to offend some things, and she's on various like MSNBC shows. She is a contributor to the Washington Post, and this is an opinion piece, which basically everything places like the Post right today are, but this is an official opinion piece. It's very long. We're only going to cover basically the highlights or the lowlights of it. If you want to see the fantasy world that these leftists live in, man, read this whole article. If you want to know what people who have plenty of time on their hands are thinking, read this article. If you want to know what our enemies, if you happen to be a Trump supporter, are literally thinking about, this article is for you. But let's get into it. This is by Miss Rosa Brooks. She said, we wanted to know what was the worst thing that could happen to our country during the presidential election. In other words, the upcoming election, which we're roughly about 2 months. World is coming, and I guarantee you you're not going to like it, even if you think you're for it, because there's people like Miss Parks here, and I don't wish this on her, but if you study the history of leftist takeovers, basically communist takeovers of countries, the intelligentsia that foster all of this, like Miss Parks, end up being the first ones on the chopping block. So, you know, be careful what you wish for. But this is one of the scenarios here they talk about. It says, President Trump has broken countless norms. This whole paragraph kind of sets up what they're doing or trying to do in this war game study, so to speak. I want to break it down a little bit as we go. President Trump has broken countless norms. Well, right off the bat, I would agree with that. But guess what, Miss Parks? Or is her name, what was her name? Let me get, because that's Rosa. It's Rosa Brooks. I'm sorry. All due respect to Miss Parks. But Rosa Brooks, guess what, ma'am? The fact that President Trump has broken countless norms is the very reason why many of us voted for the man in the first place. We voted for him because he was outside the political norm. I've been saying for the last several years that one of the reasons I supported Donald Trump is I wanted him to bring a political bomb, so to speak, to Washington and just blow that sucker up politically. And he has done a pretty good job of that. And that's why they uniformly hate him. The swamp rats hate him because he's draining the swamp. But that's why we voted for him, Ms. Brooks. And she says, goes on and says, and ignored countless, talking about President Trump, ignored countless laws during his time in office. They just put these blanket statements out there. Now, if President Trump makes a statement, or if I make a statement, or if you even post something on Facebook and you're a conservative, you have to explain yourself. You have to cite evidence and all that. But if you're a progressive liberal like Ms. Brooks here, you can just say, and ignored countless laws during his time in office. And I would put without evidence, no evidence, just a blanket statement. Trump is a criminal. That's what they're basically saying. And they provide no supporting evidence whatsoever. And while she says here, and while my colleagues and I at the Transition Integrity Project, that's the name of it, the Transition Integrity Project, man. You really think they know what the word integrity means? I'm not sure. But she says, while colleagues and I, love this part right here, colleagues and I at the Transition Integrity Project didn't want to lie awake at night contemplating the ways the American experiment would fail. She says she don't want to lie awake at night. Well, you, like I say, progressive world, you're not going to like it, because what have the progressives, the communists that are Black Lives Matter, which is, whether you want to admit it or not, by their own admission, Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization. Don't take my word for it. You could, but look it up. They admit that they are a communist Marxist organization, plain and simple. But what has Black Lives Matter been doing over the last few weeks, including in Georgetown, which I'm not sure Ms. Brooks lives there, but certainly she teaches, so it's reasonable to assume she might live close by. Check out this video right here. This is an actual video from a neighborhood in Georgetown, not within the last couple of weeks. Check it out. Yeah, there you go. There you go. They're doing that, right? They're going into neighborhoods and waking people up in the middle of the night. Now, I was listening to a program the other day, and someone asked a great question, which I had not heard anybody ask, and really no response. All of these cities have noise ordinances, and this guy was saying he was a musician, and in his band has been called many a time, for violating noise ordinances after midnight when they were doing concerts or practicing or whatnot. But these people get a free pass because they, and trust me, Ms. Brooks, if they'll come to your neighborhood now, think what they'll do if they actually win. See, if Joe Biden actually becomes president, this idea, and this article kind of talks about this, that there's going to be peace in our time, so to speak, without evidence. Because I can show you evidence galore that progressives never rest on their laurels. That's one of the things, one of my axioms. They never rest on their laurels. Unfortunately, many conservatives do. We think, oh, we won the election, so now it's over. No, if anything has been proven since 2016, this needs to be hammered home. It is never over with the progressives. They keep fighting time after time after. We know we go back to our jobs, our families, try to put politics aside a little bit, but the progressives do not do that. We're going to have to match that energy at some point. Yeah, we have a lot of support for President Trump. I get it. I'm with you on that. But we have got to stay politically activated and motivated continuously. I hate to say it, but we're going to have to, because our founding fathers understood this. Thomas Jefferson said, if you want to be both ignorant and free, you want what never was and never will be, which is one of the reasons why I'm battling ignorance and apathy every day. I know a lot of our listeners are not ignorant. Ignorant just means, by the way, you don't know something. It doesn't mean you're stupid. For instance, to give you a quick example, if you don't know how to read, you're ignorant. You just don't know how to read. If you don't care, then you're stupid. That's about as simple as I can possibly put it. But the biggest threat to Donald Trump, and this is what Don Lemon and others are waking up to, is apathy. And they're really afraid now, and hopefully it's too late. That's why Biden was in Kenosha yesterday and everything else. And boy, what a boring speech he gave. But that's a side note. But the left has woken up finally in the last couple of weeks and realized that maybe this violence in the street is beginning to stick with everyday average Americans, and people are waking up. They don't want to be wake your A up like that video just showed in the middle. Most people, even liberals, want to go home and be at peace. But I'm telling you, progressives will never, ever stop. And if they win, all they do is take that as a floodgate to double down. I keep giving this example, but it's one of the best examples I can get. Progressives have been winning on the issue of abortion, have they not? They started out like, safe, legal, and rare back in the Clintons. And, I'm not trying to get into the debate whatsoever. I'm just trying to make a point. And now where are we with abortion? It's like, have a conversation. The baby is alive. Like Rush Limbaugh says, born in the fourth trimester, the baby's alive. Have a little conversation and whack, off with his head. I'm telling you, progressives will always take it to the extreme, and they never rest. One of my axioms here at John Martin Talks, if you're new to the show, first of all, glad to have you. Howdy, where you been? But you're in the right place now. This is not politically correct, and the truth starts right here every morning at 8 o'clock. Of course, we're rebroadcast along America's Voice News Network. We're live in the morning on Facebook. Howdy, how you doing? We're rebroadcast on their network through Pluto, Fire Stick, Apple TV, Roku. Download free apps on Android, iPhone. We're on Dish Network, channel 219. We are literally nationwide, worldwide, and universal, man. That's a scary thought, right? And they have archives of our show. Check it out, America's Voice News. But these progressives will never stop. The only thing, you cannot reason with them, you cannot deal with them, you cannot negotiate with them. You can only defeat them, hopefully at the ballot box come November. But back to this story, because they're basically threatening us, the American people, not just, by the way, Trump supporters, MAGA hat wearing sons of guns or dregs of society. They're threatening with this article all Americans that if you don't vote for Biden, not just vote for him, but in a landslide, there is going to be disaster in America. That's what this says. Let's keep on with it. She said here, we realize that identifying the most serious risk to our democracy might be the best way to avert a November disaster. That sounds good. Let's avert a November disaster. But I love how the leftists always say, save our democracy. The very people that are against anything that has to do with democracy. Think about it. And the list is longer than I can get, but just off the top of my head, I can think back to the Kavanaugh. You're guilty. Kavanaugh hearings, you're guilty until proven innocent. Totally opposite the Constitution. Ocasio-Cortez said we need to convict President Trump. We need to impeach President Trump for what might happen in 2020. So future crime, Minority Report, for what we need to convict people of crimes they might commit. You're not able to face your accuser in Shifty Schiff's dungeon trial down in the basement of the Capitol Dome. There's just a list of things. You're guilty, as I say, probably the most egregious thing. You have to prove you're innocent to the state under these leftists. And let me tell you, man, that is just the polar opposite of saving a democracy. Because if you have a democracy where you're assumed guilty, you have nothing at all. But she goes on to say, so we built a series of war games. Keep that in mind, talking about these studies they did. We built a series of war games, sought out some of the most accomplished Republicans, and I'll tell you who some of them are in a minute, and accomplished is debatable, Democrats, civil servants, media experts, pollsters, and strategists around, and asked them to imagine what they do in a range of election and transition scenarios. War games is a very important thing. They classify these studies as war games because they believe they're at war. The progressives believe they're at war. And guess who they're at war? You MAGA hat wearing sons of guns. Donald Trump is a symptom of the problem. You know who the real problem is? It's not Donald Trump. Even though they have TDS, there is one person in the world, certainly in America, that this group, like Ms. Brooks here, fear more than Donald Trump. You know who that is? It's you. It's you, the American people, you MAGA hat wearing, dregs of society, sons of gun, basket full of deplorables, SOBs, man. You're the ones they fear because you're the ones that put Donald Trump in the White House. And you might do it again, not only in 2020, let's hope we do, but you might actually vote for an outsider again. Imagine that. And they want to make sure, that's why they punish the middle class with all this shutdowns through the pandemic. That's why anybody who raises their hand and says, yeah, I'll serve with Donald Trump, gets blasted, no matter what, guilty or not. They just assumed in a guilty and prove you're innocent. That's why they tell you, hey, like Maxine Waters said, talking about fanning the flames, how they're accusing Donald Trump of fanning the flames, that, you know, if you find any members of the cabinet, it don't matter where they're, get in the face and tell them you're not welcome here. I mean, that kind of ridiculous BS. That's what's going on right now. The reason is because they want to make darn sure. They hope Donald Trump is here and they got to deal with him. They hope, as the Brits say, that he's a one-off. In other words, he's either gone after this year or 4 years and they're done with him. What they're deathly afraid of is that you, the American people, might get a hunger for a Trump-like politics and vote somebody similar to him, even though there's probably nobody quite like him, into it. They don't want that because they believe they can survive Donald. They, being the Republican and Democratic establishment, believe they can survive Donald Trump even if he's up there for another 4 years. But they believe that once he's gone, and want to make darn sure that the swamp fills back up, business as usual, and they can cash in, man. Because a lot of these think tank people, a lot of these establishment Republicans, you know why they hate Trump so much? Because he didn't hire any of them. That's why they hate him so much. But war games, they believe they're in a war, and we better wake up to the fact that we are. I'm not advocating a shooting war. If we don't man the political ramparts, we're going to have to man the real ones for sure. I don't have any doubt about that. But we better step up and realize that we are at the very least, in a cultural war for the soul of this nation. There is just no doubt about it. Back to this study. A landslide, according to their war game research, a landslide for Joe Biden resulted in a relatively order transfer of power. If you want peace in our time, vote Joe all the way, right? Every other scenario, and this is critical, every other scenario we looked at involved street-level violence and political crisis. In other words, vote for Biden or die. Vote or die, man. Like ride or die, vote or die, man. If you think I'm being dramatic, just look at this shirt that just a couple of days ago, LeBron James for the NBA playoffs. Check it out. Vote or die. It doesn't get, this is not me. This is LeBron James, you know, the spokesman for China, the ambassador of China here, telling you right now, vote or die, man. It doesn't get much more dramatic than that. But they say, picture this. Now listen to this description, and it'll tell you, I'm telling you, these progressives live in a fantasy world, and in their fantasy world, it's real Hunger Games. They live on the hill like Pelosi getting her hair done, and the rest of us are out there plowing in the field, just supporting the shining light on the hill, which is progresso world. Hunger Games could be real, man. On the morning of Election Day, false stories, this is what they're describing a scenario. This is one of their, they have multiple ones in here. This is the one that just stood out to me, so I'm going to go over it. This is one of their war game scenarios. On the morning of Election Day, false stories appear online claiming that Biden has been hospitalized with a life-threatening heart attack and the election has been delayed. I guess put out by Trump there. Every mainstream news organization reports that rumors are unfounded, but many Biden supporters, confused by the bogus claims, stay home. So they're worried about Biden supporters being confused. I'd be more worried if I were a Biden supporter about Biden being confused, man. I mean, this guy, I saw a joke the other day that was pretty funny. He said, you know what they ought to do is just reconfigure his basement into like an image of the Oval Office and tell him he won, and he'd be happy just to sit there the rest of his life. But Biden, Biden, he don't know. He doesn't know where he is half the time. But still by late that night, so they're back with this scenario, still by late, even with the rumors of Biden being dead in the hospital, still by late that night, most major networks have called the election for Biden. So let me get this straight. So there's a rumor that Biden may be dead early on in Election Day, and people believe it, but he still wins. Well, maybe because all them dead people are actually voting. I don't know. But it said, but Trump, so to carry this scenario out even further, of course, this whole idea is Biden is rumored to be dead, but Trump refuses to concede. It's interesting, isn't it? It's like, you ever heard that thing saying, you show me somebody who doesn't trust anybody, and I'll show you somebody who can't be trusted. They accuse President Trump of everything that they know for a fact that they're doing. But Trump refuses to concede, alleging on Twitter that millions of illegal aliens and dead people have voted in large numbers and that the uncounted ballots are all fake votes. Okay. Social media fills with posts from Trump supporters, you MAGA hat wearing sons of guns, alleging that the election has been stolen in a deep state coup, and Trump-friendly pundits on Fox News, who are they, by the way? Fox News and OAN, and you might as well throw America's Voice News, AVN, and, of course, John Martin Talks, because I'll probably be up there shouting from the rooftop, Trump wins! That's what they're saying. They'll probably take me off the air for saying that. But they say Fox News and OAN echo the message. So those who have never conceded the 2016 election have never given Trump one day in office, basically, right? I mean, you remember when Mitch McConnell caught hell for saying that he wanted to make Obama a one-term president, and boy, he just got blasted for that. I mean, he is the opposition, so he's hoping to elect a Republican after 4 years, right? But he never said, I don't want to give Obama a chance at being president. He wanted to defeat Obama. He wanted to defeat his policies, but he never said Obama wasn't the legitimate president of the United States. The Democrats don't even, let alone give Trump make him a one-term president. They don't want him to have a term, period. They've been impeaching him since before he even took office, man. There's plenty of that. But so those who never conceded still want you to worry about Donald Trump. We've played this video a few times now, but some of you say they can't stand it because it's Hillary Clinton. I'm going to warn you now, little warning, is Hillary Clinton in all her Hildebeest glory here. You know, I have to always, every now and then I got to put a caveat because I attack Hillary a little bit here. I was murdered. If it comes up, I committed suicide. Trust me, I was murdered. But play this video because Hillary is telling Joe what to do in case of this scenario, basically. Maybe she knew the Washington Post article was coming out before it did. She did get the answers to the question from Donna Brazile, right? And Donna Brazile is part of this. I'm just saying. Check it out.
Play it for our audience, discuss it on the other side.
They have a couple of scenarios that they're looking toward. One is messing up absentee balloting so that they then get maybe a narrow advantage in the Electoral College on Election Day. Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is.
There you go. Never concede. And then, of course, Pelosi followed it up a couple of days later with her thing. I'd advise Joe Biden not to debate. I mean, they're trying to set this up. All of this, if you can't see this as being orchestrated to try to prevent Donald Trump from being successful, not only in winning, but they're wanting to hamstring President Trump's second term right now. They're setting this up for two things. One, all of this is set up for Biden to lose, right? I mean, all of this stuff, their internal polling must just be terrible because they're getting crazier by the minute, which tells me that they think that Biden is going to lose. So they're setting it up to challenge it, one, but if push comes to shove, to hamstring Donald Trump in his next 4 years. That is what this is all about. Back to this article. Massive Billy Bob tells me to get back to it. If you hadn't met my psychic sidekick, it's Billy Bob Bass. Yeah, I'm a fish whisperer. I'm going to try to whisper to a few of them. Bite my hook this weekend. Make fishing great again right here. Billy Bob keeps me straight here. He helps me with the videos and articles. Don't say a whole lot, at least on the air. He's kind of camera shy. But he has a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks, which is another place you can see our shows. We post them up on Twitter. You can also, by the way, catch us on YouTube. John Martin Talks YouTube. We're getting more views every day. We need even more. Bump us up on YouTube. I will respond to your comments on YouTube, on Facebook, as quickly as I possibly can. So keep them coming. I'm literally getting hundreds every day, and I commit to you, I'm trying my best to answer them all in a timely manner as best I can. All right, back to this article. Massive pro-Biden, talking about this scenario. Okay, so let me back up in case you're just tuning in. This is a Washington Post opinion piece by Rosa Brooks. setting up a worst case scenario. Basically, they're threatening us Americans that unless Joe Biden wins in a landslide, we're going to have chaos and violence in the street. This particular thing sets up that Biden has been declared dead in the hospital basically on election day, and Trump is holding on for dear life even though Biden is winning. Massive pro-Biden street protests began demanding that Trump concede. The president, and that's probably going to happen no matter what. The president tweets that real patriots must show these Antifa terrorists that citizens who love the Second Amendment will never let them steal this election. And that is all in capitalized letters in this. So they're really putting effect, man. They're shouting it because, you know, when you tweet something or put it in all caps, that's a shout. All I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, gun sales are going through the roof. By the way, if you want to purchase a gun or you want to purchase ammo or anything Second Amendment, check out the description of our show. Go to above the video, wherever you're watching it from, there'll be a description. In there, you'll find a link, our sponsor link, Big Daddy Unlimited. We're in the BDU, Big Daddy Unlimited Studios. Thank you so much for sponsoring us. But go in there, check it out. You will, for 99 cents, virtually a free trial, 1 month, you'll get access to factory direct pricing. After that, if you choose to stay in there, it's $10 a month, and we get $4 of that right here to support John Martin Talk Show. I really appreciate it. But guns are flying off the shelf, right? You can't keep up. That's the one biggest problem with product, keeping product on the shelf, so to speak. All the BDU stuff, Big Daddy Unlimited, is delivered direct to you online. That's another advantage. But anyway, these gun sales, if you look back, I think it's like 40% of all new gun sales in the last quarter were to first-time gun owners. And the amount of guns that African Americans are buying is just astronomical. It's doubling and tripling all the time. Do you really believe that they're buying these guns to protect themselves from Trump supporters? Do you really believe that they're worried about the KKK or white supremacists or just MAGA hat wearing sons of guns of any color, shape, or size? Because they come in multiple different ones. Really? That's who? They're buying them for the violence on the street. The cops are pulling back and violence is ensuing. Oh, and by the way, in case you didn't see this, there's a video out. I'm not going to play it because it's pretty graphic, but you can see it now. You know, they had a shooting in D.C. a couple nights ago and people are just all upset and everything else. But it clearly shows, and unfortunately, a young black man, I think he's 18 years old, has a gun, pulls it on the cops and takes a shot at him and they shoot him. So it's another, I tell you this all the time. We could debate the whole white cop, black guy, all that. The bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, one thing all of these shootings have in common is that whoever the suspect is resisting arrest. For God's sakes, if you don't get anything out of the show, I don't care what color of the rainbow you are, or even if you're not in the rainbow, do not resist arrest, and you're unlikely to get shot. I'm not defending anything. I'm just simply giving you a piece of advice. But it says here, around the nation, violent clash. So Trump's tweeted out, hey, you Trumps, you got to take to the streets with your guns, Second Amendment, save my presidency, basically. And she says here, around the nation, violent clashes erupt. Several people are injured and killed in multiple incidents. Well, hey, that's happening right now. And though reports conflict about their identities and who started the violence, I love that part. Who started the violence? That is a talking point straight out of the DNC, because they're questioning now. You know, they finally started talking about the violence. You know, we had a whole, well, they say a week, but really we've had months of the DNC, Democrats in general, not saying a peep about the violence. And when questioned like Jerry now, oh, it's a myth. It's a myth. They had the whole week of the DNC, they mentioned Zippo about violence in our streets. Not one peep about it. The only consistent thing they said in the DNC was they're worried about the post office because they're setting up the scenario, right? Now they're starting to talk about the violence, right? Because the poll numbers have changed. Don Lemon, I played this video the other day. Check out our podcast on all the ways I told you before. He said, hey, he told Chris Cuomo, we know what the polling's showing, and the Democrats got to, Biden's got to get out in front of this. But then part of this narrative they're pushing now that they're talking about the violence, is who started it. And they're basically alluding, trying to blur the thing. And then, of course, it's Donald Trump and his supporters that started the violence. I'm sure it was Donald Trump supporters that went there and were trying to burn Ted Wheeler out of his house in Portland, that kind of thing. It's Antifa. They won't even say the word Antifa. And Black Lives Matter is just like the greatest movement. And they even talk about this in this article. I'm not probably going to cover that part, but they actually say in this article that Black Lives Matter may be the greatest movement that has ever happened in this country. If you believe in communism, I guess that's true. But then they say on this, they go, that dystopia, talking about this whole scenario, that dystopia is based on how events played out in one of the Transition Integrity Project's exercise. I love that name, man. The TIP. I give you a tip. Don't believe anything that the Democrats have integrity on. We explored the 4 scenarios experts considered most likely: a narrow Biden win, a big Biden win with a decisive lead in both electoral college and the popular vote, a Trump win with electoral college but a larger popular vote loss as in 2016, and finally a period of extended uncertainty as we saw in the 2000 election, right? So they're basically setting us up that there's no scenario where Trump just wins and he's the president. It's either Biden by a landslide or Trump eking out a victory that is challenged. There's no scenario they see where Trump just wins in a landslide. Why don't we turn on their heads and make that happen? That's what we need. We need, and I call it a punishing election. We need the American people, and this is bigger than Donald Trump. This is about the U.S. Constitution and whether or not you want to live in progressive world or a republic under the U.S. Constitution. It's bigger than Donald Trump, believe me. But our choice is Donald Trump or Joe Biden. Now, I'm 100% all in favor of Donald Trump. I like the man. I think he's doing a great job. But even if you hate the dude, your choice is chaos, communism, fundamentally changing America, which means destroy the U.S. Constitution, or our last best hope at saving the republic. That's your choice. Hate Donald Trump all you want, but that's your choice. But I like this, how they talk about, let me repeat this one sentence. It said it said this dystopia, where's this electoral college win, and certainly, anyway, I like how they used the word dystopia. I was trying to find a sentence again, but dystopia, I want to define it, okay? Because words matter. I tell you, that's one of the accents. Words matter. Dystopia, the definition that I think they're using here: an imagined state or society in which there is a great suffering or injustice, typically one that is totalitarian or post-apocalyptic. Is that what they're wishing for? Because it sounds like it may be. See, they're under this. One of the things you hear about socialism, you always hear that, oh, yeah, in Venezuela, they had socialism, but they just didn't practice it right. Yeah, they had socialism and communism in Cuba, but it just wasn't quite right. And the same thing with China and all that. It's just not. They're going to get it right. Trust Ocasio-Cortez and all the other members of the Trojan horse that are hiding Biden in that Trojan horse, because that's what he is. VP Pence summed him up better than I could. But trust me on this. You can study your history. Check it out. Don't take my word for it, but you could study history, because with socialism, I keep telling you, you can vote your way into it, and we may be on the verge of doing that. We've been doing it over time consistently. So you may vote your way into it, but guess what? You always got to shoot your way out. That's just the way it is, man. All right, moving along here. With the exception of the big Biden win, talking about these war game scenarios, each of our exercises reached the brink of catastrophe. So absent a Biden landslide, they keep coming back with this idea, unless we have a Biden landslide, it's going to be hell to pay. That's a threat. Isn't that a threat to the American people? Vote or die, man. Vote for Biden or die. With massive disinformation campaigns, violence in the streets, and a constitutional impasse, Biden wins or America dies. That's what they're saying here. And he's got to win by a landslide. You know why that is? So he can take the House and the Senate. That's why. For obvious reasons, we couldn't ask Trump. I love this. This is where they're going to talk about who's part of this integrity study. For obvious reasons, we couldn't ask Trump or Biden or their campaign aides to play themselves in the exercises. So we did the next best thing and recruited participants with similar backgrounds. Let me check my time. Listen to this list, man. On the GOP side, our players include former Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Steele, famous on Joe Schmo, right? Conservative commentator and out of work, as far as I know, Bill Kristol, and former Kentucky Secretary of State Trey Grayson, who I don't know much about. I do know that most of them, if not all of them, are never Trumpers. And then on the Democratic side, they got some good cast of characters here. Participants included John Podesta, chair of Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign. He knows how to win, right? Presidential campaign and top White House advisor to Bill Clinton and Barack Obama, man. Donna Brazile. Yes, old Donna. Here's the questions, Hillary Brazile. The campaign chair of Al Gore's 2000 presidential run. I like who they're choosing, people who lost. And Jennifer Granholm, former governor of Michigan. What do all these people have in common, both the Republicans and the Democrats? What do they have in common besides their hatred for Donald Trump? They're all, to a person, to their core, swamp rats. Every one of them, and that's what they have. But then they conclude the article by saying there's some good news. Well, hallelujah, we could use some. This kind of exercise doesn't predict the future. In fact, wargaming seeks to forecast all the things that could go wrong. They want you to prepare for it. And then they give you tons. I'm not going to get into it. Read the article. It's pretty fascinating, really. All the thought they put into this. Can you see them all out there? I wonder if they're the ones that they were saying, wake up, wake up. They were already awake having pizza from Podesta. I heard he's a pizza and child guy, but that's another story. Precisely to prevent them from happening in real life. And if transition integrity projects exercises highlighted various bleak possibilities, they also suggested ways we might, as a nation, avoid democratic collapse. Vote Biden or die, baby. That's what it is. And because let me just tell you flat out, the Democrats will do anything for power. All you got to do is look at what Biden's been doing. Look at Kamala Harris, who will be the de facto president or maybe the real president. God help us if they win. One thing we know about her, and even her fans probably should admit this, she will literally do anything for power. And that's what this is all about. All right, we got a few minutes left. I want to get into a couple of more quick stories here if I can. This one is all about Facebook and their reaction to the upcoming 2020 actual election. Before I say anything about Facebook, I always got to tip a hat to Mr. Algorithm, the most powerful person on the planet, man. Al, you know I love you. I don't want to go back to Facebook jail, so I love you, Al. And then Zuckerberg We Trust. Facebook says it will flag any Trump effort to declare premature victory. This according to The Guardian, man. Facebook plans to flag any attempt by the Trump campaign to declare a premature victory in the presidential race on the platform the company announced on Thursday. So the Washington Post article we just talked about talks about all kinds of scenarios, and they're worried about Trump not conceding or putting out false. Do you see a pattern here, ladies and gentlemen? They even said that Donald Trump was stealing mailboxes, right? I mean, they're setting it up because they know they're going to lose. Their polling tells them they're going to lose, and they're either going to try to stop that from happening, overturn the presidency, or at the very least hamstring the president like they did the first 4 years for the next 4 years. That's what this is about, man. The social media giant, which has come in heavy criticism for failing to police foreign and domestic elections propaganda on its network, also said that it would not accept any new political ads, this is pretty big, in the final week of the 2020 presidential race from anybody. Now, Facebook jail awaits you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me ask you this, man. Do you really believe that in that week of before the election, conservative people just post any old thing they want? I got a feeling. I hope I'm Al. You know, trust me on this. I love you, but I got a feeling that a lot of conservatives are going to be in Facebook jail the last couple of weeks of election. I don't know. Seems that way to me. It's probably an easy prediction. Facebook said the ban on new ads in the final week of the election was designed to prevent campaigns from airing false charges at such late stage in the race. The company said it would also remove posts that convey misinformation about COVID-19 and voting. I like how they say designed to prevent campaigns from airing false charges. Let me tell you, man, I don't say this with any glee, it's just a fact. Every campaign ad worth its salt is full of false charges. I mean, on the very surface, you could have a campaign ad that says Joe sucks and Donald is the man. And either way, one of them's false, right? Or vice versa. I mean, the idea that you're going to have campaign ads that are fact-check accurate on every single thing is ridiculous. Nobody would watch those ads, man. That's just the way it is. That's our politics. It's always been, and it's just going to keep going. But Biden yesterday, you know, talking about false claims, yesterday at Kenosha in his speech, he keeps sending this thing up, this false claim about, you know, there are good people on both sides. He repeated the same thing he started his campaign with. He said the same thing in his acceptance speech in the DNC convention, and now he said it on his first big visit outside of the bunker. He keeps repeating that lie, but nobody fact checks him on that. The Facebook chief, Mark Zuckerberg, said this election is not going to be business as usual. We all have a responsibility to protect our democracy. That means helping people register, vote, clearing up confusion about the election. In other words, getting involved in all this stuff. Now, I tell you, Mark, I would settle for just free speech. I don't know why they feel like they have to get involved in all this. And then they talk about all this other stuff we're gonna get around, because I want to get into it. Well, I'll read this last paragraph and then we'll move on to our final story. The news emerged about what Facebook is going to do as Axios reported that some big technology companies, Facebook, Google, Twitter, and Reddit, have been holding dry run games. I guess they're doing their own war games to election day chaos scenarios, because it's chaos unless Biden wins, right? The companies are meeting regularly with one another, with federal law enforcement, and with intelligence agencies to discuss potential threats to election integrity. The report says, man, I don't know if I trust any of that. Man, it sounds like super deep state to me. How about this for Google, Reddit, Twitter, Twatter, you know, Squatter, Facebook, whatever? I got a radical idea. What if you stayed out of the election process, period? What if, for instance, Google, you didn't, for a couple of years ago, and we reported this on a few shows a couple of years ago, when you typed in Google search, if you typed in California Republican Party, you know what came up? The real Nazis, not the fake ones like Biden is always talking about, but the real ones, the Hitler dudes, actual Nazis popped up. Do you think that was a mistake? Does that ever happen the other way around? And people say, what about Antifa.com? But you know, the thing about that might be a hoax, it might not be, but Biden hadn't taken it down. He hadn't even complained about it. He might not know about it, but certainly Kamala does. But how about all these tech? Now, I know this is not going to happen, but the radical idea I have is just have a free exchange of ideas. How about just having a marketplace, a true free market, letting the chips fall where they may, and have some idea that they're entrusting the American people to be able to separate the wheat and the chaff. See, what they want you to believe in 2016 is that they want this scenario. In some way, there was a dude or a gal in the basement in Florida or Michigan somewhere, probably Michigan. We don't have many basements in Florida. And they were like looking at their computer, probably eating a Hot Pocket and going like, I'm with her, had a Hillary bumper sticker on their Prius and everything else. They saw some phony ad come in for Trump from the Russians, and they went from I'm with her to MAGA, and they burned the Prius. That's what they want you to believe. It's ridiculous, man. But that's the case we've been sold. All right, we're going to end the show with a good story, maybe. It depends on how you look at it. One of the things I've been talking about over the last year or so that's really the progressives have destroyed, and that is comedy, man. Entertainment, sports, the things we like to do to get away from it all. The progressives have destroyed it, man. It's part of their culture wars. John Cleese, and this is much about them, but I can understand why they be covering Mr. Cleese. He's of Monty Python fame. A lot of you young people, if you've never seen Monty Python. It's an acquired taste to extent, but challenge yourself. Go back and look at some old Monty Python movies and their sitcoms. I tell you, I miss those days. But John Cleese was one of the main ones. He said in this, the title of this article, John Cleese, can you tell me a woke joke? John Cleese has criticized the stifling effect of political correctness on creativity, saying there is no such thing as a woke joke. I believe he's right about that. I mean, all these jokes, man, they're so worried about offending someone. Even Chris Rock and Bill Maher have complained a couple years ago that they can't do college campuses anymore because nobody's laughed. Everybody's offended, man. The ex-Monty Python star, 80, said affectionate teasing is a bonding mechanism. You know, I tell people all the time, man, if I don't pick on you, it's probably because I don't like you. I tease my friends, man. But it has been the death of comedy, man. It really, I've mourned it quite a bit. It's sad. He told BBC Radio 4's Today program, PC stuff started out as a good idea, which it is. It's debatable, but sometimes good intentions. Let's not be mean to people. Yeah, okay. And I'm in favor of that, despite my age. I'm not sure what that means. He said, I think Jesus Christ would have agreed. Certainly be kind to people. I don't know that you'd intentionally try to hurt people, but comedy, if it's not a little bit offensive to somebody, it's probably not funny. The main thing is to try to be kind, he said, but then there becomes a sort of indulgence, and this is a critical point, indulgence of the most oversensitive people in your culture, the people who are most easily upset. Right, and he goes on to say this, and he's spot on this. I don't think we should organize a society, and this is what he's getting hammered for. I don't think we should organize a society around the sensibilities of the most easily upset people, because then you have a very neurotic society. Does that not describe what is happening in our country right now? Everybody's looking to be offended. Oh my God, you have a Trump bumper sticker on. You must be the Antichrist. You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. He is absolutely dead on, spot on, without a doubt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our show as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. Find something to laugh over the weekend, man. I'm going fishing. I can't wait. Escape some of this reality. My best case scenario is I catch another big gag grouper and win all 3 jackpots. But I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to John Martin Talks Facebook page. Like it, share it with others. Check out our YouTube channel, John Martin Talks. We really need to bump those things up. We got a lot of things in the pipeline, more coming to bring even a higher quality show to you, to spread it even far and wide, because I really believe that this old homespun message needs to get out there. With that in mind, as I tell you many times, not everybody can be a fighter, but everybody can support fighters like me and Billy Bob and the people here at John Martin Talks. Go to our sponsorship link and help us out. Check us out. What you do is go to the show description. No matter where you're watching it, above the video, you'll see a description of the show. There's a sponsorship link in there. Big Daddy Unlimited. It's all things Second Amendment. Click on that. You'll get a 99-cent virtually free trial for the first month, and then it's $10 a month after. And you make one purchase, you'll save more money because you get factory direct pricing delivered right to your homes. Guns, ammo, swag, tactical gear. You name it, thousands of items in there. Check it out, and you'll be helping us to help spread the word. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Let's all agree that this nation needs to be prayed for and is worthy of that. Let's all pray for our nation. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.